Yeah, hi, it's Harpreet Singh from Western Singh Law Firm. Today I want to talk about employment law. And I'm just shifting a little gear towards employment law because employment law it's one of the I think most important topic probably you will deal with in your life if you're running a business or if you're working somewhere. So discussion of those what are the basic rules um, in our state or at federal level about employment law and how those things are taken care of in terms of federal and at state level. Uh, so before I move forward for basic topic, probably you will be looking about okay, what rules about overtime, meal and rest breaks, and about premium pay and other penalties, and like what is the I think the pathway to get a dispute resolved. So I will talk about all those things, but it would not be possible in one video. So I will make series of video about these topics. Today, I want to talk about a framework of employment law if we look federal and at state level, as you know. And let me give you, I think, or just go through little civic lesson about, as you know, we have federal government, state government, federal government. You have Congress, which create federal laws, and then president sign it to make it to enact as an actual law. Then you have state legislature who have bring their own set of law. Governor passed it, and then it becomes effective. So so now you have these set of laws, and probably you have heard, okay, the federal law is supreme. So federal law will control. Yes, federal law will control. When we think about the employment context, we have the main federal law, which is mostly governs all your basic stuff about minimum wage and about your overtime and those kind of basic employment law components. So those are governed by Fair Labor Standard Act, which is embedded in your United States Code, which is passed by Congress, which is like your main thing which Congress have passed, which is the actual law, and then based on that, sometime it provide or delegate responsibilities to several departments to make further regulations based on those laws. So it is embedded in United States Code, your Fair Labor Standards Act. So that's the main law in terms of federal. If you're talking about, there are several different laws which control different industries. So I will not talk about those. Just want to give you a little framework about employment law. And if we come to state, and I will be talking about California state. So California state has more stringent laws and more benefits to employees. So California state has labor codes. If you have little bit information about California laws, so whatever California legislature pass and governor sign it, so those are embedded in the codes, the so-called code, vehicle code, penal code. Now, in terms of employment law, it's labor code. So in labor code, you have all those stuff written in there, which is passed by your legislature, and that stuff sometimes provide delegation to the departments under California. There are several DMV, and you have heard about Department of Corrections, Department of Industrial Relations, Department of Business Oversight. So there is a whole lot of departments which further enacts regulations based on those statutes, the main purpose and intent of those statutes. They enact further regulation because uh, uh, the legislature cannot go into much detail. Sometimes legislature doesn't much have experience. They want to delegate to the departments. uh, they will not mention. There can be some details about obviously minimum wage. Have you ever seen within next I think couple of years or so, you will have $15. That would be minimum wage of California. So that detail has been mentioned by legislature how it will work out in few years. But there are like several other details, small, minute, I think, rules, which they delegate powers to departments. and the departments then create those rules. So in terms of employment context, you have labor code, which is your main statute, and then you have the wage orders. Probably you have heard those wage orders. If you obviously, if you have an employee somewhere, or if you are an employer, your federal postings, your California posting, those posters, which based on law you have to post those things wherever you have your break room, where your employees can see it easily and they can read it. So if you have seen, there are mentioning about some wage orders from IWC wage order so and so to dash something. So those wage orders are basically regulations, and those are not statute, but those are regulation, which they themselves are laws. Um, but those are enacted by based on the statutes. If you see the labor code from the Department of Industrial Relations, so that's the department which enforces, oversees the compliance with the labor code. And further, if you go, there is a specific commission which enact this wage orders, which is Industrial Welfare Commission within the Department of Industrial Relation. So this commission just provide different kind of bunch of rules through these wage orders for specific industries, in terms of like what would be the working condition should be, what are those further rules about those working condition, and number of hours, wages, what should be the wages, because if you are looking at if you are in sales industry, those would be different somewhat how they work, because mostly it's commission based. Still there is other work going on. If you, I think, get the example of the vehicle dealership, so those dealership, there are worker who are actually working there. Those are not independent contractor in most of the sense, and I don't want to go in there. Just hold on for your thoughts on that. Just want to give you a glimpse of that. If you're looking at manufacturing industry, those industry work differently, means in terms of their schedule, working condition, you're working with machines, and what would be the rules surrounding that, and what would be meal and rest breaks. If you're talking about security guards, those industries have somewhat different rules. And if you're talking about professionals like me, or your accountant, or your physicians, so those industries have different wage order. More and large, those wage orders are same, because obviously and overtime is overtime. So but still means there are several other rules which are somewhat different than compared to the different industries. So those wage orders provide rules for these different industries, which are important in terms of understanding, means what are the laws, what are the compliance rules which an employer need to comply with, and for an employee, like what are their rights in terms of those rules. So if you just look, and I think I will encourage you, if you're an employee, even an employer, just read those postings. You have just brought those postings and just posted it, I think in your break room, but you have not read it. It would be a good, I think, moment to go and read those today. You have weekend, tomorrow, Sunday, or even like within few days. I think it would be good to read, because you have to comply with those rules. And probably I have seen most of the people, they don't even know like what these are, what this stuff talks about. So I think those are the rules which you have to comply with. Otherwise, there are many penalties which you have to pay in terms of, if an employee files a lawsuit, you should just know those rules. And if you're an employee, you should know about those I think postings which provides your rights, which mentions several different things. What would be minimum wage, probably you know about. What would be other things in terms of your worker compensation, who is the physician you should contact if you are injured on work. So those kind of several important detail you want to know. You can take a picture of that in your break room and read it whenever you have time. So just read those rules. And the most important factor in this framework means we are talking about employment. And there is, because our economy is changing, it's becoming more and more gig economy, which is a so-called name put on it, because more people are working from their homes, and especially if we're talking about an office work, an assistant, or a person who is helping out in terms of drafting some documents. So those industries are changing. More and more people are working. Especially, it will have a great effect because now we have developed how to work from home because of COVID pandemic. So we have adopted several different, I think, good practices in terms of working from home because this was necessary in terms of uh, pandemic and emergency orders coming from state, um, mostly from state, not from federal government yet. But still, federal government provided guidelines through CDC guidelines, and so we were following those. We have, I think, uh, are in place to have learn good practices, how to work from home and still be more productive. So in terms of that, so the economy is changing. How to define those roles? Some people just want to work, want to have a flexible schedule. So the main factor which comes in, and it would be in litigation throughout. So it's about who is employee, who is independent contractor. I have created series of videos about the recent change AB5 law, if you have heard about, which further define, make more beneficial uh, in terms of if you want to define yourself as an employee. So it make more beneficial uh, if you want to use ABC tests, or there are several exceptions in AB5 law which gives you a benefit to move out from ABC test to Borelli test. So if you look series of video about independent contractor versus an employee, who is independent contractor, who is an employee, how is that defined? Because you have to understand those things. It's important in order to get benefits from labor code, or at federal level from employment law. Otherwise, those laws doesn't apply. You cannot get those benefit if you're not considered as an employee, because independent contractor, the wage order doesn't provide benefits to independent contractor. Wage order doesn't apply on independent contractors. But with the AB5 test, I think more and more industries, especially if you're talking about those sales kind of industries, commission based, probably you're working with, and even transportation industry, the people who do dispatch work, they need to understand, means you are, even if the person have their own truck, you are controlling them. Main factor is control and type of business you are doing. If you have your own trucks, and if you're asking someone else to work on your behalf kind of, but you're on commission basis, those people, on based on current laws, those are employees. uh, Still, even if AB5 test doesn't apply, even if there is because one federal district court based on federal law have hold a preliminary injunction in place in terms of application of AB5 laws on the transportation industry. So even if you are not in that situation, still Borelli test would apply. Borelli test would define if you are independent contractor or an employee. But even in that sense, means I have looking practices in transportation industries. Many of those owner operator truckers are employees based on law. How they are controlled, how they are, I think the rules which have been put in place with from the dispatchers, all those things, you are considered as an employee, means which I am looking. So the main question comes there. So all these laws apply if you're an employee. If you're an independent contractor, the rules would obviously be different. Your breach of contract situation you would be in then. So just, I think one of the requests from myself again is just check those posters, read them. If you don't understand, you can send me your questions, anything like that. so we can discuss those things, because it's important to know that stuff if you are especially employer. Because if you are receiving a lawsuit and then you're talking about, okay, what the heck, what's that means, labor code so and so 1190, labor code 1158, what's that? So instead of getting shocked about it, because a lawsuit from an employee is more imminent, especially in these days, because it's rapidly changing, and it's easy. So I will talk about lawsuits in future videos. But I think please read those posters and just try to grasp the information. If you are not able to grasp it, just then I think ask question to some legal professional, so you have better understanding about what would be your role, or what would be your human resource role as being an employer. Because I know as many small business owners, they are handling everything: HR, marketing, accounting, everything. So you need to know those laws. Again, thanks for watching this video. We will see you in the next video. Thank you.